Hi, I'm Roy Collin, the host of the podcast. You can find everything about me by scanning the QR code there or going to roycollin.com, and you'll find my six podcasts: the Podfather, helping people become podcasters; the Awakening, exposing fraud and corruption but with solutions; the Crypto, all things blockchain technology; meditation podcast; speaking podcast; and the Learn Polish podcast. You can also help the show by actually making a donation, visiting the store, or helping my sponsors. I hope you enjoyed this week's show.
Hello, everyone. Greetings and welcome to Quantum Nurse Freedom International live stream. And today we are thrilled to welcome back our frequent guest and our friend from a distance is Alex Krainer. And Alex is not only an accomplished economist, but also a very sharp, unique geopolitical, economic, and sociocultural analyst whose insights really never fail to illuminate the so much complexities of our world. And I do resonate to, I wanted much to keep up with his writings because I can understand the way he explains it. And also when he talks, he is online, I can forever listen to him. I won't get tired from sitting down to doing chores to, and then that's, because we only have 24 hours a day to maximize. So I want to soak up everything that good an analyst like Alex does. And I know he's becoming so much in demand and for all good reasons. So, and thank you, Alex, for everything that you've been doing and sharing and making time for this platform.
It's a pleasure, Grace. Good to join you.
And I always welcome my good friend Roy. And, even if he took a break, because family breaks are important for the holiday. And here we are also putting time together. And we'll be joining as well by whoever will come to us this time. And we welcome all of them. And so I just thought it's apropos to borrow again and use the article title of Alex, the magical essence of economic development, and that magic is us plus credit. And I say that because January is like the time where people always think about inflation, people think about their personal economic situation, and people think about what can we do more, what can we do less, what have, and then all about really taking care of themselves and families, because we're overloaded with a lot of these forever wars. And at the end of the day, it's like most important, how do we feed our family? So this title is beautiful for me, the magical essence of economic development. And that magic is us, because plus credit. All right. And now we will, and Alex will lead us to that conversation. In fact, I'm sure he can lead this conversation from many ways, from the beginning of whatever happening in Croatia politics, or definitely from what everyone has been talking about, Alex, and of course our dear good friend Hartmut from Germany, who's been so concerned about his situation in Germany. So why don't I just give Alex the platform now, and we could continue our conversation. And if this resonates to you, please, 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 share it, like it, and subscribe and follow Alex. He has his Substack, Alex Krainer, and of course his other website, and he'll tell you about that, for is the nakedhedgy.com. So and nowadays you text, you write Alex Krainer, and boom, you have all the choices to connect with him. All right. So thank you. And Hartmut, nice to see you and good to see you. And I hope everyone is well with your family, because we all have our families to take care of. So, Alex, go ahead and invite people more on what you've been doing to this January, because you've always been doing many things in the past. But go ahead.
Well, people can find me on X. On my handle is at Naked Hedgy, and lately I've mostly been active on Substack. My personal Substack, where I write things of general interest, is Alex Krainer's Substack. And for traders and investors, I publish a daily trend following newsletter on iSystem trend following. That's pretty much, I think, what it's called, but I forget now. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's findable. And so what I've been doing generally, I've been writing a lot. I've been talking to interviewers a good bit lately. And then, there's children, bills, errands, the day job, and it hasn't been boring. And then keeping up with the world events is almost too much. It's insane how much is happening in how little time, and how important some of these changes are, because they will affect the future of humanity. And just yesterday, so today is the 16th January 2025. Yesterday we had an announcement that Israel announced officially the ceasefire deal for Gaza, and Donald Trump has not even been seated as a president. So I was very surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised, because hopefully, this leads to a sustainable peace and the killing stops.
Well, it is obvious to most of us here in America, especially those who've been following the geopolitical situation, that many unexpected events will be happening. It could be favorable, it could be unfavorable for the incoming administration. And so that will really, as we always say, though maybe the fight in America, or the inner wars among peoples and politics has just begun. So stay tuned, and always follow your have that discernment that you've been exercising in the last 4 or 5 years since the pandemic. So now is not the time to be fooled by many things. It's the time to really open up and learn the lessons from the past. And that's why even in the recent, in all articles of Alex, there will always be learning the lesson from the past. And so, Alex, with this article that you had, you also led me to listen to the conversation with Professor Richard Werner. Yeah, am I saying
Yes.
Werner?
Yeah.
And it's truly interesting that I also just realized that, connecting that with your article, that Germany has even just past 10 years ago, Germany surpassed China for exporting. And I said, Germany is just a small country, and geographically, China is very big, and then even the population. But then lately, it's been like, and we've been talking about that this Ukraine as a proxy war is also killing Germany, and is really making Germany as deindustrialized. So I guess, how, if you want to start with that little history, because I know that we are empowered as people. We can be empowered, and we are co-creators of our destiny. But then if we don't understand what happened in the past, how can even we keep reclaiming that power? And I think your article did emphasize that little history and that reclaiming that empowerment. And so, if you can just give us a little context on what happened, what's been happening with Germany, and maybe you could also mention about that bottoms up and the top down perspective, because during the pandemic, suddenly there were so many groups all calling for decentralization, groupings, right? And yet it also naturally fell apart. And I've seen groups that depended on the bottoms up, top down, and they're all now, I haven't seen any successful group.
Yes. So thank you. I think that's a very important question. And the reason why I wrote that article is because generally I find that there's a lot of, I wouldn't say confusion, but a certain lack of understanding of economics. What is an economy, and what is it for? we basically listen all day, every day about the GDP and growth and inflation and employment and a lot of these statistical measures of something that we don't really know what it is. And the word economy is mentioned in the news a million times a day without anybody stopping to say, what is this? What are we talking about? And I think it's very important to keep in mind that what we're talking about is simply people living, making a living, doing things that they need to survive and be okay, to have clothes on their back, roof over their head, and food on the table. And then, next order needs are, need for transportation, communications, entertainment, healthcare. It's actually not so very complicated. But, then we've built insane things on top of that, where you have these big investment banking institutions that trade financial derivatives that most people wouldn't even know what this is and what it's for. We have war economies. We have a lot of corruption in the political system. We have the ruling establishments building these control matrices, and a lot of things that are not necessary. And then they tell us, to have economic growth, we need to do this and that. And will the Fed lower the interest rate, or will they increase the interest rate? And so it just goes on and on and on and on and on forever, almost like a political cycle. But at the same time, if you look around, you see that our societies are almost chronically in crises. Something's not working. And so, I've been observing this since the global financial crisis of 2008. And, when you study how the crisis happened and why it happened and what the problem is, and then you look at how the governments are trying to solve the problem, or pretending that they are trying to solve the problem, you think either they are insane or there's a different agenda going on. And of course, they're not insane. There is a different agenda going on. So then, from there, I wanted to kind of explain to myself, because I studied economics in university. And I can't say that I learned anything very useful. You learn theory that is useless. And in fact, when young people now ask me, hey, what should I study? I tell them, study anything other than business and economics. That's what I studied. Anything other than that, because not only is it completely useless and it won't equip you with anything that's of any use to society, you will also be taught things that are patently wrong. Basically, the economy is people procuring good life for themselves. And so, farmers farm, produce food, bakers bake bread, butchers butcher cows, fishermen fish, car mechanics repair cars, and so on and so forth. And all of these things can continue to be done without the need for the central bank, for the government getting involved. It's because people already do those things. If I'm a baker, I want to bake bread every morning. I want to open my shop and I want to sell the bread to my customers. And I make money, and then with that money, I buy things that I need for myself and my family. That is the economy, basically. And so, one of the things that struck me in one of these lectures by Dr. Richard Werner is when he talked about why Germany has been so extraordinarily successful as an economy. And they have been, I'll just correct what you said, Grace, because they didn't overtake China 10 years ago is that they were ahead of China until about 10 years ago. China overtook them about 10 years ago, but until that time, Germany was the world's #1 exporting superpower. In absolute terms, I'm not talking about for the size of their economy per capita, no, in absolute terms. And it's still a relatively, it's much, much smaller than the United States, it's smaller than Russia, it's smaller than China, it's smaller than India, and so forth. So Richard Werner explains the dynamism, and he explained that Germany had about 1,500 of what they call market champions. And this is companies who command a #1, #2, or #3 place in the world in terms of market share for whatever it is that they sell, right? So largest market share, second largest market share, or third largest market share. So that companies that satisfy those conditions are labeled as market champions. And so Germany had 1,500 of companies like that. And they're not talking about Mercedes and Audi and AEG. They're talking about mostly companies that none of us have ever heard about. And they're mostly small and medium-sized businesses. And just for perspective, the second country in the world in terms of the number of market champions that they have is the United States. And if I don't remember off the top of my head, but the United States, I think, had about 350 market champions. So we're talking a smaller country having almost 5 times as many as the United States, the global economic superpower. So what is the explanation? And we've all been fed these children's stories about the Germans being very disciplined and hardworking and well organized and blah 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 blah. But that's not the explanation, really. The explanation was in the German financial system. And so Professor Werner says that Germany had the world's best banking system. And the way it was organized is that in Germany you had, again, about 1,500 1,500 regional banking institutions, most of which by far were small local and regional banks that did business with local and regional businesses, companies, right? And something like 70% of all these banks were not for profit. So they were basically credit institutions that financed these small and medium-sized businesses around Germany. And what that meant in practice was that if you had a family business, your local bank would give you credit. They would support you, but they would, not only give you credit, they would give you long-term credit. And then, usually these bankers tended to form a relatively close relationship with the businesses that they financed, in the sense that the banker would go to the premises, they would try to understand the business, because they also wanted to understand, are they funding something that has a chance to be successful and repay the loans, or is this unsustainable? So they would form a close relationship with the families and managers of those businesses. They would acquire a very deep understanding of what the business is and how these companies make money, and they would even help them in terms of organizing their finances and accounting and reporting and going to fairs to present their products and so forth. And so, if you have that kind of support in your community, then a lot of things become possible. And, listening to Werner's presentation about this, I realized, my gosh, how many times have any of us sat in a bar, in a cafe, or in a pub, or with a group of friends talking about, oh my God, wouldn't this be a great business if we could do this and this and this and that? And people have sometimes really clever ideas. And sometimes they're very capable of creating really smart solutions to problems that people have. But usually it stays at the cafe, around the table. Wouldn't it be nice? And then but we don't have the money. So of course we can't do that, because you would have to start a company and get office space and get some machinery and blah, blah, blah. And maybe, we couldn't even dream about starting without maybe having a few €100,000 or 500,000 or 1 million or 2 million or whatever. And so all the initiative, all the inventiveness, all the clever ideas stay at the pub. And then everybody goes home, and that's that. But imagine then if you could say yeah, that's really cool. Let's go talk to our banker. And your banker hears you and says, I like it. So here, we'll give you credit. Do you have something to pledge as collateral? Yeah, okay, fine. We'll help you out. We'll guide you into your childhood diseases of starting a business, being a startup, not knowing how to do things. And it was not uncommon in Germany that a bank would issue a 100-year loan to a company like this. Not maybe a startup, but once you've proven the concept and you wanted to go to a higher level, they would give you. Now imagine if you got a loan for 100 years, so you didn't have to stress about paying it back. You had, it was, people would actually get to set up and create successful businesses, hire local people, teach them, train them. So that's not just a business that becomes successful, that's also employment. And then, maybe in the second generation, if I start a business and the business starts to catch roots, become stable, right? I will probably encourage my children to go study whatever it is, that agronomy or chemistry or engineering or software design or whatever it is that I do, so that they could take it over. So children go get higher degrees, they come back to the family business, and they see a million ways to improve it, to bring it to a higher level. They made friends in university who have other ideas. So all the knowledge, all the creativity, all the inventivity, all the entrepreneurial spirit gets kind of invested into something real, not just to create it, but also to perfect it, to refine it, and over a long term, right? And so that's how, through that process, you get all these market champions, because by the time they've gone through this process over the long term, they have among the best products in the world, maybe the most efficient production system in the world. So they're competitive. It's also price competitive, and they become a market champion. And Germany has created 1,500 of these stories, because the stories didn't stay at the pub. They actually became real. And so, this led me to think that the credit is the bottleneck. Credit is where so much creativity, so much inventiveness, and so much of this entrepreneurial spirit just dies. If you don't get the credit, it doesn't go anywhere. So you go keep your job and you stay with your job until you retire, because it gives you a salary, you get to pay back your mortgage and your health insurance and this and this and that. And so good things just don't happen. Anyway, so I've been around people who have, for example, my own brother, he and a group of his friends, they loved spearfishing. But the harpoons that you buy in the store are basically crap. It's not very good. And so they designed their own. Some of those guys were technically clever. They designed their own. And they built this harpoon in one of the guys' garage, this spear gun, which was insane. It was just insane. And there's a lot of little solutions that they had to build themselves with the machine tools and everything. And when I saw the thing, I was amazed. And I said, why wouldn't you guys want to make, now that you figured out the design, and not only it was incredibly effective in actual fishing, why don't you guys just replicate this and sell it as a product? And they're like, oh, no, you can't, we would have to invest that. No credit, no money, to do it at a higher level. So you can see that there's so much potential there. There's so much creative energy, and the point of the story is that life could be so much better, and our societies could be so much more vibrant, and the quality of life could be so much higher if our financial system gave support to small and medium-sized businesses and to entrepreneurs with ideas and, as they say, the soul to dare, and I forget. There's a saying by a British poet: the soul to dare and something to try. I forget. I'll find it.
You're talking about the Germans, Hartmann and his friends and all their technology and how much. But the Irish, what was fascinating for me, especially during the Celtic Tiger, because we've got all the top companies in Ireland, and I know there's the tax loop. But when I was researching it and looking at it, it was the IDA, which is the organization that was used to try to bring in these companies. And what they were actually doing is they were taking them to the pub, making a great time and connecting on relationships. And I think a lot of countries actually fail to do that. So that's something else for countries to be doing to actually attract business into them.
Yes, I agree. That's absolutely important. The social element in all of it is extremely important. People need to form personal relationships. And this is something that we also have as a certain advantage in Croatia. We don't do pubs, but we do cafes. And so in Croatia, if you go any city, between 12 and 2 o'clock, you find that pretty much everybody is at a cafe. You can't find a free table. But and we used to criticize that because, people should be at work, they should be working. But on the other hand, people also talk a lot, they exchange information. And so it's in a society that does that, spends a lot of time in cafes or pubs, it's much more difficult to brainwash the population, because they all talk to one another.
And that's something, with people that tell you not to go, when they're trying to get people to watch their pennies, they tell them, don't be going to the cafes. And I say the opposite, because you do so much business. You connect, you could sit down with someone and just have a chat, and you'll either bounce ideas off each other or you'll start selling to each other. And plus the feel good factor as well, because if you're staying at home, you don't have that feel good factor. So
no, absolutely. And then another dynamic with this support of local small businesses is that these businesses, then, if they're successful and if they make some money, they also invest that money locally, and you usually get general quality of life in that area, is because they will build libraries, they will contribute to building sports facilities, an ice skating rink, things that, and also public places where people can come and hang out together, and I think that all makes life a lot better, and it makes the community more, how do you call it, more cohesive. Anyway, so that was all that was kind of the point of my article, and I think it's very important to realize that, because one of the takeaways of that is that is actually possible to achieve it. We don't have to wait for the central government to hand us out solution. We don't have to wait for the gods of Silicon Valley or I don't know where to tell us, to give us the technology and stuff. People are perfectly capable of putting together anything they need to put together in order to make things work. I think that the key thing would be that we find ways to make the financial services part of society work to make all that possible. Now, having said all that, people who make money off of wars and people who make money off of controlling people in society don't really like that. They have no use of people who are independent and sovereign and well off, because when you're doing okay, you're not so interested in fighting wars. You're not so interested in being mad at your neighbors and hating the people across the river or across the border. You're more inclined to enjoy life and to be disposed in a friendly manner to others. And so, one of the things that I've observed, that this process of coercing whole peoples into war always starts with economic crises. So first, the economy of the society is devastated, is destroyed. Germany in the 1920s and 1930s was an example. Ukraine between 1991 and 2022 was another example. And I'm afraid that what is happening in Europe today is the beginnings of that same story, because Germany had a strong, successful economy, and then they were pushed into supporting this war in Ukraine, and then the gas pipelines that were supplying gas to Germany were blown up by somebody, right? We don't know who it is, but somebody blew them up, right? And now we see, this, and not only that, but also the ECB, the European Central Bank, has been working for years to change the German banking system and to destroy these small and medium-sized banks, the local banking system, not just in Germany, across Europe. I think that in the last 10 years, they've destroyed something like 6,000 local and regional banks across Europe. And they're doing it exactly to consolidate the whole banking industry in just a handful of very, very large banks. Again, the British model. I think in Britain, the whole banking system is dominated by 5 banks. and these 5 banks don't finance small and medium-sized businesses. And then through the pandemic, we saw that the destruction of small businesses was deliberate, because a small mom and pop restaurant that serves pizza and hamburgers had to shut down, but McDonald's could stay open. Strange, but that's what they did. So, what we want, what we, the people, want, and what the people in power want in this sense is exactly contrary to one another. So that is a problem.
When I was doing a lot of property in Poland, like I was transferring millions at times. So the bank was very friendly to me. They were inviting me to the Chamber of Commerce, offering me overdrafts and everything. And when the crash happened, I mean, I was doing okay for a while. I got wiped out eventually. But, they basically stopped giving people overdraft. And this is still happening today. It's like they could say, like your example of Germany and how they're helping and, coming in and giving advice on how to make this business work. They'll offer you as much money as you want when they know that you're doing fantastic. And as soon as and usually due to external circumstances, something goes wrong, that's not your fault. I mean, there are times, but they'll shut the door. And what they actually did in Ireland, that was the time with the bailout, which never went to the people, but they moved all the managers. So I had a fantastic relationship with the banking manager. So then he went to a different branch. They moved them all around. So you weren't even able to communicate with the people.
So they deliberately made it impossible to form like a close personal relationships between. Well, interesting.
Yeah. And there was even situations where, like, I'd go in and the new guy, like, he threw the business card across me, like, flung it like a Death Star. And I was thinking, this is so weird. I had another guy in Poland cleaning his nails with the business card. So you were going from a case of where they were your best friends and everything was nice to treating you like shit. And I know even today, like, I hear people the whole time, even going through roller coasters with their business. And unfortunately, it's not the German situation. So how can we stop that? Is it that we get the individuals that get involved and try to kind of create it through blockchain technology to kick out the banks? Because I see that even in Ireland, you the credit union, which was kind of like the local, you've heard of credit unions, and people were able to buy stuff through that. But then that even got highly regulated. And I heard of people, they weren't even allowed to save. Like a friend of mine, his father was putting in money and they said, no, you can't put in more than that. So they stopped him saving his money. So, like, they're shutting down banks, but even they're affecting the credit unions as well, which worked for years.
Yeah. Yes, and the whole banking industry now is turning into a Gestapo, because it's amazing how difficult it becomes to do perfectly legal things. Making money transfers. They call you and they say, like, hey, why are you making this transfer? And then you have to explain yourself. And then they say, well, we want to see some documents about this. We want to show us the invoice. But this is my business. I'm not doing anything legal. If I'm doing something illegal, it should be the police or some government agency should investigate. And then if I'm found guilty, then maybe they go to the bank and say, block his account. No, now suddenly the whole legal system is completely sidelined, and the banks themselves act like Gestapo. And I promised you, I was at my bank. I wanted to make a transfer, and they started, asking all these questions and asking me to provide them this document and that document. And I said, but people, this is my money. This is my account. This is my money. If I want to flush it down the toilet, what's your business with this? And I had like 4 bank clerks flanking me. I was, and eventually I said, like, are you guys my bankers or are you Gestapo? And one of them was a woman who obviously had a little bit of a sense of humor, and she said, like, no, we are the Gestapo. It's the days of your friendly bank managers, that's over. That doesn't exist anymore. But it it actually creates real problems, because you really have to think through how you're going to organize your business. Because if you get unbanked because the bank is not happy with the contracts or the invoices or the reasons why you paid this and collect invoice that, they can unbank you. And my bank actually threatened me once with unbanking, and then your whole business is finished, because it's not like you can take your money and go to the next bank. The database is for the whole system. So if one bank blacklists you, you will not be able to open an account across the street. So you're basically screwed. And I think I don't know how they do this, but they're not going to cash you out, meaning bills. They're probably going to give you bank cash for the balance of your account. And then what do you take that? What do you do with that if you're unbanked? It's
I was selling. I sold the property that I had with an investor, and I was transferring. I don't know, it was 200,000 or 300,000 euro. I was using the Revolut because I was getting the best exchange rate, and they blocked my account for over 3 weeks, and I had to send them the notary document. And it's like, when you think of it, it is so sad. But what I'd love your information on, because most banks, it's like 50,000 or 100,000 is what you're insured for, and if you've got, say, 500,000 or 1 million, should you really spread it in? And like, what's your chances of actually getting it? Because like, I see that, and I see videos the whole time now in America, people trying to take out 9 grand. And it's like, they won't give it to them because they're like, you have to tell us exactly what you're doing. Like we've just discussed, it's sad. So like, regarding kind of the insurance of your money, how should people kind of protect themselves?
No, the people are on their own, I think. The people are on their own. And this is now a tyranny of bankers. But it really is, because they've deputized themselves to be law enforcement, and it's not even law, it's whatever rule they decide. Because they don't even have to show you you're breaking this law, so therefore, they just say like, oh, it's money laundering rules. It's always for your own protection. It's always for some kind of a good deed, but they made the rules. And those rules, they can enforce them at their discretion. And there's no legislation involved. There's no political process involved. There's no democracy involved. This just goes top down from some Olympus of banking gods down to everybody else. And I don't know what the solution is, but there's going to have to be a solution, because they're not going to be progressively loosening the rules. They're going to be progressively tightening them to make life completely impossible. And they will be pushing us all into black markets and gray markets. And, that's fine as long as you need, a plumber, or you need to buy some bread or some normal stuff. But if you want to conduct commerce internationally, you're toast. It's game over. And then we're it's a slow drift to the Middle Ages, to feudalism of some sort.
Recently, I had a client just for podcast coaching, and it was through Stripe. They paid by credit card. Usually people do a bank transfer, but this person wanted to pay by credit card, and I did set up. It left their account, and it took 2 weeks to arrive in my account. So, I mean, that's sad. But the other one is PayPal, that I have a really pet peeve with, because you can't have your account that just all the different currencies, like Wise or a few of the options. So you have to set it up a certain one. And if you're getting paid in different currencies, and it can be up to 10% is what they take. So a lot of people, especially in Pakistan, Bangladesh, that's how they're getting paid. So they're actually taking the full amount once it goes around to about 6 or 10 people. Like, it's so sick. And same with the credit card processing. I mean, do you want them advertising on UEFA and you being charged 3% plus for transactions? It's a sick thing. Yeah. And I would love for that to be reduced, because even at 0.1% they're making money. It's not that they need to be charging you 5 to 10% with PayPal.
Yeah. I agree.
With the commodity, just before I pass it to Hartmut there, with commodities, because like trying to get the economy going right and everything, but the problem is everything is manipulated. And like, for example, now even with the farmers, they're telling the farmers not to plant their land, not to put crops on their land. And we saw all the chicken farms. I mean, if one burnt down in America, you go, "Ooh, yeah, this happened." But when you see a lot of them, it's orchestrated. It's,
yeah.
Like, can you ever see it done kind of maybe through blockchain technology or so? Because there's a load of middlemen, even with the oil and gas. There's always loads of middlemen that are taking, they're taking pieces, and it's the end user that's paying for it. Like, blockchain technology the solution to cut out all these middlemen?
I don't know, but I think that in some ways internet is, I think that, okay, so here's an example. Somebody posted on X. So this is a young couple, and I think they were both bankers in New York. But their parents had a farm somewhere in maybe Virginia or something like this. And so they both decided to quit their jobs on Wall Street. And they went down to Virginia, and they were going to manage their family farms. They were going to rescue it because it was in difficulties. And so they tried everything they could. They couldn't save it. The farm was slowly going into bankruptcy. And what they did then is that they created a website. And they were producing meat. They were raising cattle. They were producing meat. They were selling this meat through the conventional distribution channels, and they were getting nothing for it. They were not breaking even. And then they decided, okay, we put up a website, and we start selling directly to the people. And then all of a sudden, everything changed. They circumvented the conventional distribution channels. They went direct to customers, and now they started becoming very, very profitable. So, I think that the modern communications technology, the internet, emails, social media, all of these things is giving us new maneuvering space to reorganize businesses. And I think that in some ways, maybe if you go that route, then you can say, okay, you can pay with US dollars, or you can pay with crypto, or you can pay with something else. I don't know. I know that you can't ask people to pay you in gold because that would be illegal, but I'm sure that there's a way around that too. So I don't think that crypto is a solution in itself, but it's one of the elements that allow people to maybe gain some maneuvering space. But I think that the solutions are in reorganizing businesses and sidestepping the limitations of the matrix that has been imposed on us. I've also, I don't know if you guys have seen a T-Box. Have you guys come across T-Box?
No.
Okay, so for whatever reason, in my Facebook feed, I started getting these advertisements for a company in India that sells tea. And, the advertisement is very, how do you call it? It's effective. It got my interest. And I have noticed that tea that you buy in supermarkets in the West are crap. Basically, that's why they started putting artificial flavors in so many teas, because to just buy black tea with nothing, just black tea, please, that's it. it's not even so easy anymore, particularly organic. You can buy the little tea bags, Lipton and stuff, but apparently that's tea dust mostly. The lowest grade of tea. It's like what they sweep off the floors, basically. And so I thought, oh, what the hell? I'm gonna see what these people are selling, and I'm gonna make an order. And so sure enough, I got some tea from India in a package. It arrived in a few days' time. But the thing about it is, okay, yes, the tea is much better than what you get in the supermarket. It wasn't very cheap, actually. It was actually more expensive than what I get in the supermarket, which means that these people probably make a nice living. Which means that they're probably a successful business. And so, I thought, I actually am a fan, because they thought, the hell with these distribution chains where we have to sell all our production to some big buyer who then sells it to some other, and it all goes to some big massive warehouse where it's bought by Lipton and PG Tips and whoever these companies are. Let's go straight to the consumer, right? And so I love that, because they probably earn a lot. Probably if you sell just to these big merchants, you're always in poverty. You're always barely breaking even. You're always barely making any money. And like this, these people said, like, okay, let's make a website. Let's make these advertisements that go around social media, and let's charge directly. And it seems to me that they are successful. The product that they sell is legit. It's good. And so I think that there's going to be a lot more stories like that. It's probably going to be thousands and tens of thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of them. And then, the payment mechanisms are going to have to evolve to allow these businesses to exist. And I think that if they're successful, they are going to be paying certain taxes to their authorities. And their authorities are going to say, like, hey, this is nice. We have successful businesses in this region, and now our budget is getting filled up with money. So there's going to be, I think, some political pressure to make it possible for these businesses to survive and thrive, which then maybe will make pressure on the political process and on the financial services companies to not stand in the way, to get out of the way. So, for me, let's say that simply patronizing some of these businesses to choose to buy from them rather than from the supermarket is already maybe a step in the right direction, because the supermarket is a Walmart. Walmart can buy politicians, and Walmart probably barely pays any taxes, and they can squeeze the merchants, and they can squeeze the customers, and they can squeeze the politicians. And so if all this disperses away from them, then maybe we even get a financial reform out of it at some point. But we have to know what we want. We have to push it in that direction, not just wait for things to magically appear for us.
I get a lot of my stuff from the farmer, and even when I got tomatoes, I kind of forgot what tomatoes really taste like, and the same with apples. Because there's so much. Like the farmer told me they don't have toxin. He said 30 sprays that they use, that they're told, for the ones that are going to these supermarkets and everything, which is sick. But listen, Alex, as always, thoroughly enjoyed it. I pass you on to Hartmut.
Thank you, Roy.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Hartmut.
Such a pleasure to have you again.
Thank you. It's good to be with you all.
Yeah, it's so funny because I worked as a bank clerk. I made an apprenticeship as a bank clerk, and I worked in the bank. And the funny thing is, yes, it's true what you said. There was I made my apprenticeship 1994. And the interesting thing is there was a better relationship between the customers and the bank. And for example, how can I say, it was the employee who taught me in the stock market. He told me, Art, with one leg you are every time in jail, because you make tax consultation without allowing to do tax consultation. So the situation was that the consultants, they had the best interest of the clients in their focus, and with the time, the power of the government became so strong that they are not focusing anymore on the client. They're focusing on their own, on holding their own job, and not the client is completely more or less irrelevant. He is only more or less a cash machine.
Yeah, exactly.
And if he makes something wrong, they immediately have to inform the Ministry of Finance. So and today, for example, freezing the money of a client is not for, let's say, if something is illegal, but it's also a business, because they can work with the frozen money. This is a problem.
Yeah.
So, for example, in 2023, Germany had an income of taxes of 915 billion euros. This is a lot.
Which year?
2023. In
Okay.
2024, I think it was 950 or 918 billion. And we had and the problem is, if you have on the one hand, you have such a high taxation, and on the other hand, our Minister for Finance, he is really of the opinion that now the people who have made savings and got the interest for the savings, which was already taxed, they shall pay with the savings social costs, healthcare, if you insurance, if you get unemployed, all these things shall be paid by the interest on capital. This was his idea 1 week ago. So the situation is, we are becoming a socialist state, and the problem is, in the socialist community, there is no middle class anymore. And this is what they want to do. They want to destroy the middle class.
Yes.
And this is the reason also with the banks. In Germany, we have this Wärmepumpe. What's the word of Wärme? We have heating pumps. We shall, until 2030, all people have to heat with heating pumps. They are not allowed to have an oil heating anymore, which costs 400,000 euros. No one has it. In this way, they confiscate the houses.
Really?
Yes. If you are not able to get a loan, what shall they do? At the moment it stopped. Yeah, we are lucky that it stopped this law, but it was very close that we got the law that we all have to use heating pumps. And our Minister for Economy made the suggestion to destroy 500,000 kilometers of gas pipelines in Germany.
To destroy them all?
Yes, because everyone shall heat with heating pumps or solar panels or with wind. They destroyed.
But you're talking about Robert Habeck.
Yes.
I question whether he is even sane. I think that the man is insane.
The
And not
problem
only
is
is he insane, he's also extremely dangerous because he really is the Gestapo type. Who is
there's one I understood in the last couple of weeks. I understood something very interesting. It is the people become different if they are in these positions. And the interesting thing is there is the Milgram experiment from 1961. In the Milgram experiment, you took a usual guy from the street or someone who has studied, and you put him in front of a control center. And there was another group which had to fulfill tasks. And if this group made a mistake, they should get a penalty by an electroshock. So, and there was someone who wore a white coat.
Yeah.
And the man with the white coat said to the man or woman, please increase the energy so that the electroshock becomes nearly deadly. And most people did it. If they said, I can't do it, but then he will kill. And if a man in a white coat said, do it, they did it. Yeah.
Okay. So, Stanley Milgram.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this is the interesting thing. All these politicians, they have consultants, experts. And these experts work as in consultant companies or and maybe they are financed. I have not found the proof right now. But the problem is that these experts of NGOs, etc., these are the consultants of the ministries, and they are the experts. So they tell the ministers what to do. And this is the corrupt system. So the oligarchs have a complete control over the government by the consultants. And in that moment, you must understand one thing. In Germany, we are the only one country, or not the only one. There's maybe one another, but we have stopped all atomic plants. We don't have any atomic plants anymore, and we have destroyed 14 coal plants. We had the most advanced coal plant in the world in Hamburg. It cost €3 billion. It had worked for 5 years, and they destroyed in November. They destroyed it. They destroyed it in order to establish a hydrogen company, hydrogen factory. And one day after the destruction, the Minister of Economy said, "I'm sorry, the company for the hydrogen company is bankrupt." So the situation in Germany is everything goes in a recession and depression in a very fast speed. 2025 will be a very, very bad year for Germany.
Yes, I know, and I suspect that this is all being done for free. I'm sorry, not for free, deliberately. And I don't even think that Robert Habeck knows any of this. He's just doing what he thinks is he should be doing, because he doesn't have any idea about any of these things. It's those consultants that you mentioned, and the people who pay these consultants, who's telling them what.
I suppose so, because you have so much NGOs, yeah. And these NGOs, these are the real consultants.
Yes,
and these real consultants, they say what to do.
Yeah, and I suspect that the real objective is to push Europe into chaos and poverty in order to get us all ready for war.
Correct.
Again, against Russia as usual. I wanted to say something about Stanley Milgram's experiment, because this is one of those things that has become a meme. It's cited quite frequently, and the point is always to say that we're all shit, and if we're in the right position, we're just going to do bad things if somebody tells us to do bad things. Well, I read this years ago, but I don't know if the name Erich Fromm rings a bell.
No.
Okay, so Erich Fromm was a Frankfurt-born Jewish psychiatrist, psychologist, and philosopher, and he wrote many beautiful books. But he wrote a critique of Stanley Milgram's experiment, in which he basically very compellingly shows that it's kind of junk science, because it reaches very, very exaggerated conclusions, which are then presented, it kind of turns the things into, oh, vaccines are safe and effective. That's the end of that discussion. But it's kind of junk science, and it creates an evil caricature of the human spirit. Mm-hmm. And so I don't remember it exactly, but his critique is very compelling. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's in the book called The Anatomy of Human Destructiveness. I will have to look it up, because I think that this would be worth revisiting and let's say maybe packaging it up for in a concise article for reading.
The question is, I like this. I like this quote. If a clown moves into a palace, the clown will not become a king. The palace will become a circus.
Yes,
and this is exactly happening in Germany. And the question is, who is the one who brought this clown in this position? And these are the media.
Yes, that is the right question, and I think that in case of Germany, it's a very complicated question, because it was being done for a very long time. I think pretty much since World War II. Germany remained an occupied country. I think we always go back to London. I think that the actual ultimate decision-making powers is in London. I think that one of the visible actors in all this is George Soros, but he's also not the top of that pyramid. I think it's the London banking cartel, and everything below that level are NATO, the German government, the NGOs, the consultants, the McKinseys of this world, and so forth. But they are all unified under the same command and control structure, and I think that the top of the pyramid is in the city of London.
In 2014, we had here a show, a satiric show, satire, yeah. And the interesting thing is, they exposed the German newspapers, for example, Frankfurt Allgemeine, Die Zeit, etc. And all these CEOs were also council or consultants or executive members of these NGOs, for example, like the Aspen Institute, CFR, Council of Foreign Relations, and all these things. There are 20 or 30 of them, and they are in several NGOs involved. And these NGOs you can call our NATO NGOs understand the NATO very well.
Yes.
So all the newspapers in Germany are NATO orientated.
Yes. Yeah.
And the Bild journal, which is the one of the famous magazines or newspapers in Germany, if you sign a contract as a journalist, you have to sign that you have to support the American transatlantic connection.
Really? That's in the contract. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
well, a few years ago, we had Udo Ulfkotte explain how he was writing articles and pretty much what the CIA served him up.
correct.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, and so you don't have any media who is judging the government anymore, and especially in the case of the Green Party, the party becomes like a sect,
Yeah.
and the minister becomes like a guru. It's a really personal cult around him.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, and for this reason, and for example, I mentioned in the podcast as well, the point is that the Green Party and also the Christian Democratic Party, they want to have the war with Russia, and if the alternative for Germany will not get into power, then it will probably the Christian Democratic Party, and they will force that Ukraine will get the Taurus rocket from Germany, which has to be managed by German soldiers in Ukraine, and which has a range of 500 kilometers, so it can reach Moscow.
Oh yeah, that's Merz, right?
That's Merz, correct.
The BlackRock man.
The BlackRock man. And in that moment,
because BlackRock has very, very extensive investments in Ukraine that are not doing so well now.
Yeah, 50% of the land is already BlackRock.
Yeah.
And
So Merz knows why he wants war with Russia, but the rest of Germany, why should they go to war against Russia? What's their gain there?
The situation is that Germany is, as long as Germany exists, it will have the tendency to get in connection with Russia, because the Russians and the Germans are the same population.
Yes.
And the British guys, they know this.
Yeah.
And for this reason, they want to destroy Germany.
Yes, and
that
has been their obsession. Yeah, that has been their obsession for over 100 years.
Correct. And now they are doing it.
Yeah, well, they've been doing it since the 1870s. They've been doing it since the 1870s. The First World War was the war to destroy Germany. That was the whole objective of that war. And the Second War was to destroy the Soviet Union, but to use Germany, because the Brits, they always act through proxies. They never do their own fighting if they can avoid it. So they have perfected this method of using proxies, and so that's why I believe that ultimately this parasite that has infected Germany and that is bringing these insane leaders to top of the government. I think that parasite is in London.
Correct, and the Russian government says also that the real enemy, or the biggest enemy of Russia, is UK.
Yeah,
they know that, and
yes.
And experts tell me every time, in 300 years, Germany was lost the war. Let's say, in 300 years, the Russians have already conquered Berlin and Germany 3 times. And if they have to come a 4th time right now, then they will never give Germany back. They will never. Germany, or the east part of Germany, including Berlin, will become Russia. So, and then you have the old Federal Republic of Germany again, and I suppose let's see what's going to happen with this. But the point is, the destruction of Germany is really the case, and also with the immigration, with the illegal immigration. Now we have a very high ethnic tensions. Yeah, we have, since 2015, we have 7,000 rapes of women, and every second day 185 women are killed, only, which we call femicide. Yeah, and it's a cultural problem. So, and you saw it at Sylvester. Sylvester party was more like a civil war. Yeah, the people, the immigrants, they shoot rockets in the chambers of children directly, and so you have already the ethnic tensions, and you have the destabilization and deindustrialization of Germany. So we are very close to the parameters of the ex-Yugoslavia war. The only thing what is now missing is to be bankrupt. No money transfer anymore. And at that moment, we have civil war in Germany.
And I think unfortunately that seems to be possible now, and the same story for France as well.
Yes.
It's always different variations of the same story, except I think that this time around the situation might be a little bit different, in the sense that Britain is a lot less powerful and a lot less wealthy than it used to be 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Second, I believe that the current leadership in Russia, in China, in Iran, and I think I would dare say even the new leadership in the United States, they understand the playbook. Before they really didn't. They really fell for these, London with their secret diplomacy and the secret intelligence service was able to very effectively manipulate world leaders, the Ottomans, the Russians, the Serbs, the Arab countries, African countries, and so forth. Today, I think that more and more people are realizing what the game is. I have been very, very encouraged by the fact that the Trump administration seems to have taken an aim against the British. Particularly, Elon Musk has posted some really, really sharp criticisms, very undiplomatic, very in your face, against the Brits, but not only against the Starmer cabinet, but generally against the British establishment. And so they find themselves potentially isolated, And they in 2012 they managed to push a thing called Magnitsky Act through U.S. Congress. That was lobbied through by a man named Bill Browder, who is a British subject. He was born American, but then changed and became a British subject. And he's partner with the HSBC Bank, and he's, I don't think he got knighted, but he's pretty much MI6. And then he pushed that same legislation through in about 30 other countries. That legislation effectively breaks it it breaks access to all these jurisdictions to the Russians, which makes it very difficult for the Russians to bring lawsuits to the UK, to Canada, to the United States, and other countries where a lot of Russian wealth has been stolen through. During the 1990s, when the Soviet Union collapsed and they had this privatization process, this was all run by Western financial interests. All these Russian oligarchs were simply trustees of Western financial interests. And so these Magnitsky Acts, which were deemed as the first salvo in the new Cold War, have basically shut off the Western jurisdictions to Russian investigations and lawsuits. And I think that in the future, and especially with a cooperative and a friendly administration in the United States, I think that the Russians are going to be, they're not going to go and conquer militarily Eastern Germany. I don't think that's realistic. But they will probably put pressure that all these Magnitsky Acts be abolished. And they will probably force Great Britain to open their judicial system to Russian investigations. And what's going to happen then is that a lot of, right now we don't know who the ultimate beneficial owners are in this imperial cabal, who owns things, who controls things. But I think that these investigations will trace the stolen assets to their beneficial owners, to physical persons, not some brass plate operation in the British Virgin Islands or Cayman Islands, but to the actual physical human owners of these things. And I think that they will press hard with this. I think that the Russians have over 100 cases that they will be pursuing in this way. And so I think that this will be the end of this cabal in London, because, when...
But this would be the end of the European Union.
Oh, well, maybe, but, good riddance as far as I'm concerned.
But at the moment at the moment there is really a war going on, because Alice Weidel, the leader of AfD, and Mr. Schopalla, the CEO of the AfD from Alternative Party for Germany, they are also invited for the inauguration.
Yeah, but Weidel's not going, right?
But sorry?
Weidel is not going.
I don't know.
No, she's not.
She's not going?
No.
Okay. Yeah, we have here difficulties in Germany because the Green Party is already preparing the cancellation of the elections. And also the Chancellor and the President, Steinmeier and Olaf Scholz, they said that Elon Musk should not intervene too much in this election. And also Mr. Breton, the European Union Commissioner, he also said that if the result is not in their, let's say, if the result is too much manipulated, they will cancel the election, like in Romania.
Yes, I know, but you can do that maybe because the rules and regulations and the laws allow you to do that. But people are not stupid, because then you also lose legitimacy. And so now you're having these leaders that are imposed on the people. And if one day these leaders who are imposed on the people say, to war, we go to war against Russia, people are going to say, yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm not doing it. They have no legitimacy. And they have no, how do you call it? Charisma to lead the people. because throughout history, to affect real social change, whether it's a revolution or a war or whatever, you need a compelling ideology. You need strong reasons. So there has to be, some kind of an ideology that unites people, that people believe in. And then you also need charismatic leaders. So they create a Hitler or a Trotsky or a Napoleon or somebody like that. But
it's different. This time it's different because they lead by pressure. For example, the Minister for Inner Affairs, Nancy Faeser, she made 2 days ago, yesterday, she made an announcement that all policemen who have the tendency to choose the Alternative Party for Germany, they have to quit their job.
But that's just completely insane.
But they did it.
So
you get an interrogation if a police member is a member. If a policeman is a member of Alternative Party, he will quit the job and he has to go to an interrogation.
That's completely mental. Well, these things go on until they can't. We had these communist regimes in Eastern Europe. They all collapsed, and you saw what happened to Nicolae Ceausescu, who one day had all the power in the country. The next day he was shot dead by the protesters. So as far as I'm concerned, you can repress people only for so long and up to a certain point, and then when the people turn against you, then you're finished. And it's always been that way throughout history. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but in the end, it always does happen because every repressive regime in the world through history eventually collapsed.
I agree with you. Let's say it this way: I see this courage in the East German people because they are, young Democrats, for maybe only 30 years already, or 35 years, and they know exactly how it was in the GDR. In the West Germany, I don't think so. The problem is because if you want to make a revolution, you need to have a high testosterone level or a normal testosterone level in your body. And this testosterone level in the body of the people, especially in the young generation, is completely destroyed. By food, by medical, by how many people take psychopharmaca? Psychological drugs. And this reduces the testosterone level in order to. I see the opposite. For example, the Antifa was attacking when on Saturday and Sunday, the Alternative Party for Germany, they made a meeting, a conference. And the Social Democratic Party, they paid and drove the Antifa to this location in order to block the streets. The Antifa asked for the passports of the people of the village, and then they decide whether they let them go to the village or not. And they shouted, "Never ever Germany again." This is Antifa.
Antifa was shouting that.
Yes, never ever Germany again.
What, European Union instead?
I don't know, but never ever.
But they don't even know there. But these people are protesters for hire. They pay them. This is like from the Color Revolution playbooks. But
Yes, and this is
they're not for real. This they don't
the
have.
crazy
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, you could read on the bus that the bus was hired by the Social Democratic Party in order to drove these people, these idiots, to this place. Yeah, and our Minister for Inner Affairs, she has already made. She wrote reports for the newspaper of the Antifa. So, and also the CEO of the Social Democratic Party was part of Antifa. So you see that the Germany is going in a socialist direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the socialist direction is it's dangerous, because the point is, with the Western people, I said it several times, they are demoralized.
Yes.
And because of the demoralization, they don't have the possibility to see what is true and what is wrong. They only have the security bubble, because so far everything was fine. The government or the system has support me that I can drive a Mercedes every 4 years, yeah, or something else. And everything what will fit in the security bubble, they will accept. Everything which is out the security bubble, they will not accept.
Yeah.
And so these people they can cut off from freedom step by step without realizing it.
Yes.
And this is the reason why I don't see a revolution in Germany.
Well, people were demoralized in a very heavy-handed way, also in places like Soviet Union and Romania and Eastern Germany and so forth. And it lasted for some time, and then it collapsed.
But one question I have is this revolution in East Germany, was this a real revolution, or was this organized and orchestrated by the West?
Yeah,
So far I haven't found any real answer.
That's a very good question. That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer to that question, Hartmut. But I do have my suspicions that the revolution in 1989 in Romania was orchestrated by the West, and I do remember once a report on the BBC about Nicolae Ceausescu and his wife visiting the Queen at, I guess, Buckingham's Palace. And then they reported how Ceausescu and his wife stole stuff from the Buckingham Palace. So at the time, I thought that, if it was on BBC, it was true. So I thought, oh, what a terrible man, what a terrible woman. They went to visit the Queen and they stole Queen's stuff. Well, now I realize that this was just a very typical demonization report to demonize somebody that they marked for elimination, So I thought, okay, so maybe this was orchestrated from the outside. But regardless, either way, even the Roman Empire fell. The Roman Empire collapsed. It wasn't taken down from the outside. It was taken down from the inside.
I have a different opinion. The Roman Empire never failed. It became the Vatican.
Yes, yeah, it did. It did. It's true that it probably kind of morphed into other things.
It's in my opinion, it still exists, because Mrs. Huge, I think Huge is her name, the whistleblower of the IMF. She's a lawyer, and she stated in one interview, she stated that all secret services, I suppose the Western or not Russia, but all secret services have to make an annual report 1 year to the Vatican.
I'm sorry, 1 year?
Every year. Every
Yeah.
year, the all secret services who work together like banks
Yeah.
have to make an annual report to the Vatican.
Okay. Yes. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And I did have the impression from reading a few history books about the collapse of the Roman Empire, and this wasn't written anywhere explicitly, but I did get the impression that, the political structures of the Roman Empire failed, but they kind of infiltrated the Vatican, and that they continued to rule through the Vatican, and that this eventually gave, it spawned the Crusades, and then the Venetian Empire, and then the Dutch Empire, and then the British Empire. So yes, I think you're right, but again, I think it's very relevant that the political structures of the empire imploded, that the economy of the empire collapsed. And the fact that they were able to then hide away the power structure behind the Vatican, that's maybe something that we can avoid this time around, because back then people didn't know. You didn't know. What did you know? You didn't know what the people in power were discussing and strategizing. And people generally didn't know what they wanted themselves, in the sense that they just got on with their stuff. And I think that today the situation is quite different, because we have these new emerging powers. These new emerging powers have a very, very radically different approach to organizing the world. As they say, it's the clash between two systems of governance. And I think they're very much aware of what went wrong in the West, and that they deliberately want to avoid this. China, India, Japan, elsewhere, they had civilizations that survived for thousands of years, and they had a certain continuity. And I don't know if it was utopia or if it was really, really awful, like they teach us in school. But the fact that they had this continuity says something to me. Egypt had 3,000 years of continuity, Mesopotamia, and so on. Whereas the Western empires, they kind of tend to collapse much faster. They go into a collapse much faster. And we had that, with the Roman Empire, with the Greek Empire, with the Venetian Empire, Spanish, French, Dutch. They all rose and imploded back in the space of 2 or 3 centuries.
The problem is that this time again the collapse can be connected to a civil war, because in whole Europe we have the problem that we have now ethnic tensions like in ex-Yugoslavia, which are imported.
Yes.
But nevertheless, whether the ethnic tensions are imported or not, they are there. And in the moment when you have a recession, deindustrialization, and ethnic tensions, and no money transfer, in that moment you have civil war.
Yeah.
And we are very close.
That's entirely possible. I'm afraid that's entirely possible. And in fact, there's a lot of people who think that this is the most likely outcome. And concretely, I indirectly know some people who are very close to the French military circles, and they think that the civil war is the most likely outcome of the current crisis.
And in the moment when Germany and France have civil war, this war will go over to the other countries as well.
Maybe. We'll see.
But it depends what Trump will bring. Maybe he is also. It depends how the connection will be. I don't know why Alice Weidel doesn't fly to USA, because I thought this would be quite good. But the problem is, we don't know what's going to happen until the 23rd of February. If she gets 30%, if she gets the most powerful, if she will become the most powerful party, maybe this Christian Democratic Party will say it's enough is enough, and Mr. Merz has to go, and someone else has to come, so that the Christian Democratic Party and the Alternative for Germany can work together.
She is sending Tino. How do you pronounce his last name? Trupala. Yeah, she's sending him, and somebody from AfD told me that the reason why she's not going is because somehow it's bad for the optics, and I didn't understand if it's bad for the optics in Germany or in the United States, because she doesn't really live in Germany and she's a lesbian, and they
understand.
They thought that for the optics it would be better if she sent somebody like him, who is a Christian man and an artisan, and more,
I understand.
maybe a better fit for the MAGA crowd.
I understand. I understand. That's possible. Yeah, that's possible. But it's very exciting what's going to happen in Germany until the 23rd, because also the other parties try to forbid the Alternative Party for Germany until the 23rd. And this is also another thing, and the lawyers are elected by the other parties, and this is also very important to understand. So there is a lot of, I don't want to say corruption, but there are a lot of tangles which we have to understand, and let's see. At the moment I don't have anything. Honestly, I want to have something positive, but at the moment for Germany I don't see a lot of positive things, because the recession will move very fast. It doesn't matter who will come. Yeah.
And Hartmut, what do you think about the possibility of Sarah Wagenknecht's party cooperating with AfD?
No, Sarah Wagenknecht, she is the one who has the same, in the moment when it comes to very important decisions. For example, shall we discuss whether we shall leave the World Health Organization, or shall we sign it? She is all with the big people. She's all with the big guys.
So when it comes to important decisions, she aligns with the establishment.
She aligns with these guys, and the point is, in my opinion, she was only established in order to take the votes from the Alternative Party of Germany.
I see. Okay, I didn't know that.
And she is so small. She has only a couple of thousand members, and to get this logistic done in order to become so famous, etc., etc., etc. This is also it's nearly impossible with this only few members. Let's say this couple of thousand is nothing.
Okay, I see. So she's suspicious.
She is suspicious, and she is no real alternative. No, in my opinion, not. She has in several choices she had to do, or the party had to do. We could see directly she is not an alternative at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this would be just. There's no perfect time to end, but there's always a perfect time to pause, because we would like to offer our audience all the time to really, really think and re-listen again and contemplate on all the things that we've discussed. And I'd like to share, and I found a quote that Alex was trying to remember. So for our audience who loves poem, just like me, so it is the will to do, the soul to dare. That's from Sir Walter Scott's poem, The Lady of the Lake. Okay. And yeah, I did remember Eric Fromm was very famous in many ways, in both in nursing field, psychology field, and I think a lot of those people who were trying to be truth in the truth movement. But be careful with
Yes.
what you read.
I think that Eric Fromm is one of those people who are being deliberate. We're encouraged to read Freud, but not Fromm. And Fromm writes very beautiful books, very profound philosophy, and things that are, let's say, uplifting and encouraging, and I think that they add to the human spirits, which is why he's become relatively unknown, whereas everybody knows Freud. And I read both, and I love Fromm, and I can't figure out why people even take Freud seriously. Anyway.
Well, anyway, it must be by design again.
Oh, for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah. So next time we'll have Alex, and because I know he has a lot of really good assessment in terms of what's happening in Syria, and as he had mentioned in other podcasts that Syria will still continue to go through all the difficulties, but it's not the end of their story, and the story especially of the brave military and very brave Syrians who continue to fight for their freedom. So we have given you a lot of information, and please you just keep remembering that we are the magic, as Alex would say, and and in terms of that, and stay curious, stay engaged, and and always keep remembering that we are the magic. And Alex, once again, please invite them to where they can connect you. And Roy, thank you also. Roy, you can get in touch with roycolin.com, and Hartmut and Go Your Own Path, and yours truly, graceosagra.com. But Alex, take the last few minutes, please.
Thank you, Grace. I am active on X. My handle is @nakedhedgy. My personal Substack is Alex Krainer's Substack, and my Substack for traders and investor is iSystem Trend Following. That's it.
And of course, I am my own sponsor. So if you get in touch with me for good quantum resonance supplements, and I'll give you the code for the 15% discount. Okay, and it's truly very good supplements. Thank you. And
I have a question for you, Grace.
Yes.
Do you know anything about those resonating bowls?
The bowls, bowls are not the music bowls.
The ones that you go boing and then it rings.
Oh yeah, well I know the music bowls, the Tibetan bowls.
Yes.
But we have to be careful on what the frequencies, right? So it's
that's exactly why I'm asking, because I saw them for sale and I thought, okay, that's interesting, but how do I know which one? Because some of them could be bad, some of them.
Right. I will recommend if you want to invest on it really for healing, get the crystal bowls, real crystal bowls, and that 525 hertz. But anyway, that crystal bowls, because they're different materials, right?
Do you sell them?
No, I don't sell them.
Okay.
I've had a few people on my meditation podcast that talk about them, so I'll connect you with somebody on that, Alex.
Alex, look what I have.
Oh, okay. That's a stone one, no?
No, this is crystal. And
that's crystal.
Alex, I have someone from Romania. She's beautiful, and this is primarily her instrument. She's getting famous actually in Romania. She went with me to the Philippines to because she's a music therapist as well, but she is a musician. She has beautiful voice and beautiful lady because she was once a model also, and so that's her expertise. She's near you. I consider you near her because she's in Romania. I will I will tag you in the Facebook because I know you're there, and she is also famous there. Okay.
Okay, thank
She
you.
does
Very cool.
all of this meditation, and she sings, and she knows DNA activation like me, and very good for her.
Brilliant. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for asking. And yes, there are frequencies that can heal your distortions with all the what you're worried about, the 5G, the images, because you all know that they keep bombarding us with how they can manipulate us. So
Yeah.
now just be aware that there are good ones as well. And when
So 525 hertz.
it's one of the best ones, and I have another one later that I will tell you. I don't remember exactly what it is, but these are considered eternal frequencies more. That okay? Yeah. Now that will not distort or mutate your DNA.
I mentioned that because somebody told me that they're purposely eliminating church bells everywhere.
Oh,
Because there's
interesting. But that is not impossible. I also have a bell that I put at the end of my step, and that's also you can ring that and to harmonize the frequency of your home. So there are certain things we can use. But again, just like people like all these different gems, some gems are not good. Okay, so the same thing as some sounds, same thing as some pyramids. The way they measurements of the angles of the pyramid, there are some pyramids that are not good. So they will use the Illuminati or the global elite. They will use what is our interest and distort that. But it's up to us to have that shield. And one shield that I always know is to be around people, like even if Alex is far away and Hartmut and Roy, for me, this is my shield. Okay? Our conversation is our shield. So when
Just quickly on what you said about the church bells, because the Tartarian emperor apparently was using frequencies, and during the war, they said they needed all the metals to take all the bells, and they were actually buried. So I saw that they actually had found them. So, like, that's all healing frequencies that were used.
yeah. Oh, interesting.
and and to add to that, that goes now to the scalar frequencies, which is mostly sound, scalar frequencies. And if you see, I know you don't have much time to watch Netflix, but if you do, it's the one, a lot of the Chinese movies, at the you'll get something authentic in terms of human values. They will use like drums when they're going to go to fight. Ding, ding, ding. Anyway, they use everything for for whatever. But as Alex has written in his article, and I know Roy asked me, said, "What do you mean, Grace? Credit? Is it financial credit?" I said, depends on the credit. Okay, Alex didn't say you go ahead and keep owning anything, but it's the credit used for something good that will profit also, that will bring back to the economy. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not all for shopping or for the property to have a big home. That's when it goes downhill. So okay, so it's what can you use that credit for to contribute to your own life and to the community. And now I,
Yes.
after really your article, Alex, and the conversation with Professor, now I appreciate. I have a brother or a friend, he passed away already. Now I understand why he kept on in Princeton. He created one local bank, which now the Bank of Princeton is getting bigger. It has multiple offices now. And then I remember he also created another local bank. I never really got a chance to ask him, why do you keep creating local banks? And as for me, I resonate to honoring local banks, local shops, local this. Yes, because if you create, you have a relationship with MC. When at one time I lost my, I had a difficulty with my nursing work. Then I was worrying about my mortgage. It was the local bank that helped me. Okay, so honor your local businesses, but that's
Yes.
what you can
Yes.
do. Local businesses. So thank you, everyone, and
Thank you.
happy
Thank
New Year,
you.
happy blessed January, and let's keep on moving forward. It's not the end of the world. We can make a difference. It's
Oh,
hard,
it's the beginning of the world. Only we don't know it yet.
Yes.
Hartmut, your question is the assignment. The question you ask, you're in Germany, you do the homework, and you tell us next time about that civil war, okay? All right.
Yeah, no, it's. I hope it will not come, but it's.
Yes.
Let's say it this way. I have. I like Vladimir Savchuk, who is a priest in Washington State, and he said something very interesting. He said, the world is not waiting for Trump. The world is waiting for you, because for every Goliath, God created a David, and you are the one for a specific Goliath.
Mm. Yes.
I like
Amen.
it. Amen.
All right. Thank you all very much. I enjoyed our
Thank you.
conversation, and until the next time.
Thank you so much. Have a good time.
So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As mentioned at the start, you can find my 6 podcasts on roycollin.com or scan the QR code. If you're looking to start a podcast or do a podcasting tour, I help with that. Also, if you're looking for a virtual assistant, we also have that service. And you can help the show by visiting the store, supporting our sponsors, or making a donation. Until next week, take care.